Hello and welcome to Asia Business Report. I'm Karishma Vaswani. We start now with what's happening in Asia this week and what's on the economic calendar. So let me tell you all about it. Of course, it's the inflation that's still in focus, very much on the minds of not just investors, I should say, but also policymakers. And there'll be decisions on interest rates in Australia and some inklings from the United States as well. On Tuesday, we'll get the inflation rate out of the Philippines for the month of June. The central bank's new governor has signaled he'll raise rates. South Korea is also due to release its inflation data for June. Now, its inflation is at its highest level in 14 years. We're seeing a theme of this sort across the region, of course, while the won is at its weakest level since 2009. Now, on the same day, Australia's central bank will announce its decision on the benchmark interest rate. The bank raised the rate by 50 basis points. You'll remember in May, another half percentage point is expected on Tuesday. And rounding off the week, the US Federal Reserve is due to announce its decision on the cost of borrowing, with inflation hitting a new 40-year high in May. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Peter McGuire. He's the Chief Executive of XM Australia, joins us now from Sydney, a regular guest and friend of the program, I have to add. Great to have you back on the show, Peter. Let's start with the US, shall we, as we've just been talking about it. What's your sense of what we might see this week?
Well, I feel as though that we've got the FOMC minutes on Wednesday. I think the inflation, according to Fed Chair Powell, is their number one concern. And I think the jury's made the decision. We're looking at 50 basis points from a trading perspective due to the rate tightening cycle. So the movement and the momentum is certainly going to be onward and upward.
Peter, you know, whatever happens in the United States, huge impact out here in Asia, across the world, of course, and we're starting to see that rate cycle picking up in Asian economies as well. What are you expecting for South Korea and the Philippines, for instance?
Well, if I look at the Philippines first, you're looking at around about 5.4% as far as inflation year on year. That was in May, so I'm thinking that'll probably tick up in June. And the peso is running at around about 55. So I'm sure that they'll look at, a rate increase, probably 25 basis points. And you've got to think of the same sort of agenda. You may see 50 basis points for South Korea. It's 5.4% as well. I think the jury's out, 25 to 50 basis points. So again, momentum, and their central bankers are looking at tightening.
You know, when we talk about interest rates, of course, the policymakers are concerned about reining in inflation. But all of this has an impact on growth, doesn't it, Peter, in terms of how confident people feel about spending money? Are you seeing signs of a recession emerging in the US around the rest of the world?
Well, yes, very much so. And this is the concern. And I think the next step after that is the stagflation story, where you've got growth starting to be pulled back. So if a recession comes in and you've got a rate tightening cycle, it's going to be quite a tough situation for consumers. So I think that that's the main agenda at the moment, how they're going to balance that whole equation out.
Peter McGuire, they're always great to get you on the program. Thanks for joining us.